Okay. Angel Mounds was a site of Native American Mississippian culture. And like all Mississippian Native Americans, they built these giant earthen mounds. The mounds are man-made, and the higher the mound, the more prestigious the person. So Angel Mounds has 11 mounds. You can see the biggest one back here is Mound A. This would have been where the chief or religious leader or political leader would have lived. Other mounds would have been the sites of ceremonial celebrations, religious celebrations, things like that. But essentially, the higher the mound, the more important the person was, and everybody else lived in the plaza below. Now, there are 11 mounds, but a lot of them have been eroded due to time, natural weathering, but also agricultural practices from the farming family who lived here before it was discovered to be the site of Native American society who needed to be preserved. So in the 1930s, we had an archaeologist who, with the WPA, came in and started excavating, only excavated one mound and found 2.5 million artifacts in that one mound.
And
so
artifacts are in here?
Some of the artifacts are in there. A lot of them are in the Glenn Black Laboratory in Bloomington, the Indiana University. Okay. So, but our interpretive center was recently updated to reflect the heritage that the descendants of the Native Americans who claim this to be their ancestral homeland still try to uphold those traditions and things like that. So while the people who lived here disappeared in 1450, we don't exactly know why they left or where they went, because that was before European exploration into the area. So you have Miami, Osage, Shawnee, a lot of different tribes that claim this as their sacred homeland or claim that their descendants came from this area.
And these were all man-made. These were all built by hand.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So what did they do? Where did they get in order to build this, how did they do this?
So we are actually really close to the Ohio River. So they would have gone down to the riverbanks and grabbed mud and then come and brought it back up basketful by basketful. It would have taken generations of time, especially to build the larger mounds. But what's really interesting about these, we've recently discovered this. The people there, even though this was like before science and before history, because it's not recorded, they were using cosmology and astronomy to know not only where to live, when to hunt, when to migrate, but also exactly where to build the mounds. We know this because the summer solstice and the winter solstice. Now, the summer solstice, which was just last week, when the sun rises just above the conical peak that you see here, Mount A. So the sun comes up right at the top of that mound. And in the winter solstice, the sun sets at the edge of Mount F, which was the Temple Mount, where religious ceremonies would have been held. This rings true for all Mississippian sites. They all built their mounds specifically so that they could see the sun rise at summer solstice and sunset at winter solstice.
And the specific reason for building the mounds is for living and just everything that their culture?
Well, yeah, we can only interpret what we know about it because, like we said...
What you found.
Exactly. So what we know is that they align with the sun, the summer solstice and the winter solstice. We found millions of artifacts. We also can, because there are other Mississippian cultures around the area, and because of what we know from the tribes that claim this as their ancestral homeland, the taller the mound, the more important the person was. So a religious leader, political leader, social leader would have lived at the top of the mound while everybody else would have lived below. Okay. Now, they're not burial mounds. A lot of people misinterpret that and think that they're burial mounds, that they were buried in the mounds, but that's...
Yeah, they lived there. It's their homes.
They lived on top, exactly. Yeah. And a lot of people lived in the plaza below. And you'll see this when you go through the interpretive center, what it would have looked like there as well.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Angel is a wonderful example of preservation that shows the brilliance of indigenous people in North America. The place that today we call Pepequah Keke Kanzen Zepionge, or the place with mounds along the Ohio River, sits within an interconnected landscape.
It was a strategic spot, and the land was really fertile. It would have been a great strategic point for canoe travel as well.
Away.
There is an energy. There is a feeling that you get when you're on property that can at times be emotional, can at times be spiritual, can at times be just energizing.
It's hard not to get emotional because that's our land, that's our home, that's where we come from. That connection, we directly descended from. Walk that ground. It's overwhelming. And use it as food, as medicine, as technology. In our garden, the mounds here at Angel are oriented and placed very deliberately to aid people observing celestial events. This site is built using air. These observations were one way people understood the universe.
History is all about these cyclical points that make up this never-ending cycle.
Important for a lot of tribal cultures. When we talk about color, when we talk about overworld and underworld, these dualities of how
For many tribal nations, the Milky Way is considered the path of souls. Each year, people can view the Milky Way from Mount F, the viewing ground, in a unique and meaningful way. Just before the sun rises on the morning of the summer solstice, the Milky Way appears to extend straight up out of Mount A. By nightfall, the Milky Way has shifted in the sky, forming an arc that appears to descend into Mount E and H. All four of these mounds were built in these specific locations to facilitate watching this celestial event.
The belief is that after someone passes away, the spirit of the dead person has to this place that we live together today to.
I'm Christina Fox. I'm a citizen of the Miami Tribe of Oklahoma. Sites like Angel Mounds, they really demonstrate how central
These leaders oversaw the political and economic well-being of the community, which was inseparable from spiritual and religious beliefs. Leaders oversaw relationships, including trade connections, with communities throughout the Mississippi world. The location of Angel and the other large Mississippi towns along major rivers set the stage for these relationships.
today, looking
There's a certain amount of practical logic that is involved in those large complexes or position.
when you look at
And
it,
those are usually on the rivers,
there's
very close to the banks.
a cycle.
And they position those there. It's the easiest way to do it.
I think the river is on the basis of a community's relationship to other
So
communities.
at the beginning of each month,
It's not just the movement of materials and people, but it's also the ideas that come along with it. Angel Mounds is sort of like a hub with a lot of people coming from different places and bringing all those things together.
and the moon grows larger at peaks, while these
A rich culinary and medicinal tradition was a part of people's lives at Angel Mounds. The people intimately knew the natural bounty of the To the women of Angel, these were all ingredients that could be skillfully put together and prepared for their families and communities. Recipes would have included a variety of herb stews, smoked and salted meats, corn cakes and acorn flour breads, grape dumplings, and succotash seasoned with wild onions, among many others. Smaller gardens inside the palisade walls were possibly intended for special crops used in ceremonies.
But the fields themselves were ridge and furrow type of agricultural system. There were high spots that were sort of mounted up in long ridges and was a groundbreaking method for growing crops because it was much easier to tend.
The natural bounty of the area also includes game animals, birds, and water creatures like fish and mussels.
This particular place was supportive of deer and buffalo, turkeys, fish, and rabbits, and all of those things that could be in our diet if we processed them. Also, it was supportive of wild plants. Plants were needed for a lot of things, including food, medicine, technologies.
and leaders wove connections between spiritual beings, the community, and the cosmos. Some of the most powerful rites may have been hidden from public view. Wide open central plazas that were an important part of city design in Angel. The importance of these special plazas continues today.
That's a place that's perfectly suited for playing games and for dancing.
The games and competitive sports taught different skills needed and used throughout a person's life.
What we learn in things like hand games has to do with sharp survival. Stamina is being a really good one when you have to move long distances.
An important game played on the Angel Plazas was Chunky. In Chunky, a special stone disc was hurled down the plaza as men threw arrows to gauge where it landed. This occurred amidst public cheers and wagering. But this was not the only game played, not by a long shot. The people also played different ball games. Today, lacrosse and what's earlier games. The plazas at Angel were also dance grounds.
There's a lot of recognition that there's community dances occurring in the central space of the village. So people can participate as a community. It's a whole group of people dancing together, singing together. So, from one, our community celebrates today.
We're going to go outside. I'm going to go outside and on top of the mound, walk around the mounds and the stockade. And what about these stockades here? Are you?
So the stockade wall would have covered their property on 3 sides. The stockades would have been made out of tree branches, tree trunks, and then this wattle and daub method, where they would have taken leaves and mud and kind of smoothed it over. That would have surrounded the property on 3 sides as a fortification to protect in case intruders came. On the 4th side, it backed up to the Ohio River, so they didn't need a wall on that side. They could use the Ohio River as their defense system, and then that allowed them for easy access for canoeing, for trade, for fishing, things like that.
Okay. All right. I'll go out and look at it then. Thank you. We're here at the mound. Over to the right, it's a smaller one. Take a walk around. We're now on top of the mound. That's the highest point there. Take a look at the gift store here.
Yeah.
What is your name?
My name is Casey.
Casey. Thank you, Casey, for your
You're
help.
welcome.
You take care.